As blacksmiths, we tend to have lots of vices, and I've swapped vices around in here several times in the last couple of years, trying to find the ultimate vice for my shop. Doesn't mean it's the ultimate vice for your shop. I bought that great big leg vise. It had two legs, the green one, and it looked like it was going to be the holy grail of vices. Then I reached out to Fireball Tools and discussed whether or not the Fireball Tools vise would be appropriate for blacksmithing. Jason over at Fireball Tools thought that vise would hold up to just about anything you could throw at it. And he thought it would be worth putting in the shop just to test that out and see if this vise was up to blacksmithing, and that way other blacksmiths will know whether this is a good vise or not. And so far, I've been really happy with it. If you'll remember, I made a great big heavy stand, used to sit back over here in the corner, and it was workable there, but it wasn't the best location for a vise. After working with it for a while, I could see its value, and I reconfigured my stand that's set in concrete here and got it bolted here where I work with a vise all the time. So this vise is now a semi-permanent fixture in the shop. I don't see me going back to a leg vise as my primary vise unless there's some sort of a problem in the future. And I haven't noticed one. This has been without a doubt the best holding, most solid vise I have ever worked with. Yeah, there are some downsides to working in a bench vise, machinist vise, whatever you want to call this. For regular blacksmithing, in a leg vise, all the stress and abuse that you're creating during forging goes down to the floor, and it isn't carried by the screw. So the screw and the mechanism that works the vise doesn't take much abuse. A vise like this, sometimes the screw is carrying some of the weight and the slide mechanism is fairly precision, and pounding on it and forging on it can cause problems. But this thing is so over-engineered, I don't think that's ever going to be a problem. And I'm also not swinging a 14-pound sledgehammer at this thing. Probably a 6-pound hammer is the heaviest thing I'm ever going to throw at this. And so far, it has just been rock solid. I'm really impressed with it. So if you've been wondering what the status of the Fireball vise was here in the shop, it has certainly earned its keep, and I'm going to keep working with this vise. Does that mean I don't have any use for a leg vise in the shop? No, I still have that blue Kenka vise in the shop. With the gate project completed and my platen table accessible again, I have it bolted to the side of the platen table. But this is real easy to take up and down. It only goes in with 2 bolts up here. Those come out really easy, and the bolts come out of the table. They just engage with the bottom of the square holes in the table. So this vise can be removed, and because it's a relatively light vise, it's easy to take down and store under the table or in a corner somewhere if I need the space. But if I need the little bit of extra overhang and clearance that a leg vise provides, this gives me that option. So the Kenka vise that came from Blacksmith Supply is not going away. This is a good vise. In fact, it holds so much better than that monster of a green vise did that I would be happier if this was the only vise I had than having that big green vise as the only vise. But I have the option in here right now of this vise. I've got the big Wilton on my table where I do most of my filing and grinding. I've got the Fireball vise back there in the forging area. And over by the welding table, I've got a smaller Fireball forged vise. That was actually a part of a package deal, and it came with some other Fireball Tools stuff that I was buying several years ago. So that's 4 mounted vices that I have in this shop at the moment. There are 2 vices over in the little shop that are mounted, an antique leg vise, as well as a bench vise. And then of course I've got drill press vices, filing vices, hand vices. Blacksmiths really do have a lot of vices. Now, what was really wrong with the green vise? When I did that video, I was really just talking about why it was going away. I didn't think I needed to explain what exactly was wrong with it because I wasn't trying to fix it. I wasn't doing an instructional video about how to repair a vise. But a lot of people said, well, all you got to do is blank and insert whatever thing they thought was wrong with it there. And pretty much none of them were correct. Several things wrong with that vise. I took some of the hardness out of the spring so it was easier to move and it closed just fine. But you could never really tighten it completely tight because the mating surface between the jaw and the screw were just torn up. They were just really ragged, and it was sort of like engaging gears that didn't want to turn in that direction to try and get it tight. So that's something that needs to be machined to put back right. Just trying to grind it is not a very accurate solution. I did make it better grinding it, but it was never going to be perfect. Ideally, I think it should be taken apart, have a machinist turn the screw, and then probably put the jaw on a mill and mill out that spot so that they mate perfectly, and maybe even do them flat and set them up for a thrust washer. That would probably help a lot. But that is not the only problem that vise has. The other big problem, when you had it as tight as you could get it, put a cheater bar on it, tighten it down, really get it to hold solid, and then you want to twist something or bend something, if you watch down at the pivot point, it moved at the pivot point. So when you were putting stress on the jaws that wanted to open, that pivot point should stay solid and not move, but it had slop in it. So it needs to be drilled out and have a larger shoulder bolt put in there, maybe a bushing, something like that. That would be the easiest thing to fix, but without fixing the mating surface between the screw and the jaw, I just didn't see it as worth it. I'm not a machinist. I don't have a lathe in the shop anymore. And even if I did, that would be a little bit more precise than anything I would want to try and tackle. So I'd have to hire that job out. And someday I might. I still have that vise over in the shipping container. It's kind of getting buried with other stuff moving in the shipping container. But I can get it out. I can have it repaired if I really want to at some point. And who knows, that day may come. The only real downside to the Fireball vise is that the jaws are not real wide, so there's not a lot of room vertically to pass a wide bar through here. Anything bigger than about 1 inch, I start to have a little bit of an issue. I'm going to make a set of false jaws for this that extend out past these jaws, and there'll be something welded up that insert in here and can be taken out pretty easily. But I think by putting a set of false jaws in and making sure that I'm using vise jaw spacers, I'm not likely to have any serious problems with something that cantilevers out a little bit. So I hope that answers any questions you were having about putting a vise like this in your shop. I've been really happy with this decision, and I don't see it changing anytime in the near future. But regardless of whatever vices you may have, I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, have fun, stay safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next video.